day after the Super Bowl, I picked 3 Super Bowl ads, and I showed them to the kids, and then they were to tell me which one they thought was the best ad and why. This was our first attempt at argumentative writing, something that was sort of relevant to their lives. They were all talking about the Super Bowl ads anyway, and so they saw an ad on Doritos, milk, and Oreos, those 3. I had to pick wisely off of the Super Bowl ads. And I wanted them all to be around food so that they were the same kind of thing, and that wouldn't skew their thinking too much. So we watched the videos, they talked with groups, then they went home and had to write out their thinking, and we were working on concession, like here's my thinking, and then you might think I'm wrong, but here's why you're wrong, okay? That's the idea of concession. So, again, this was an overnight assignment. We were just starting this thinking. So, in your hand, you have what we're going to pretend you wrote, okay? You are going to exchange it with the other person. Now, the reason this matters is you're going to get that yours back. Okay, so feel free to write your name on it or whatever so that you know that one's supposed to be yours. We're going to pretend you wrote that, okay? And you're going to exchange it with your teacher. You're going to exchange it with the person across from you. You're going to have a minute. You're going to read what your student wrote, thinking about a positive, a praise, and a prompt. This is a quick, easy way to do conferencing. You give them 1 praise and 1 prompt. 1 thing they did well and 1 thing they could work on. And you're going to read it for a minute. You're going to have a minute to talk. What's going to happen is the people on my side, you're going to talk first. The people on the outside, you're going to talk second. And then I'm going to tell you, switch, if you haven't done that, which means the other person should start talking. And then I'm going to say rotate, which is going to mean the people on the inside are going to slide that way. So Trina's going to come around here, and the people on that side, you're going to stay seated. Okay, before you rotate, I think you'll be straight back though, right? You're right. Yes, ma'am.
Since I am a special needs student, what should I say if my teacher will give me a prompt to do something? Do I say okay or whatever or?
And what I say is this is something you might work on, and they're like, well, I don't want to. This is my suggestion. It's your writing, and then move on. Okay. I've got other people to talk to. That's all you get for today. But I have 8th graders, so maybe that wouldn't work with your 4th graders. Okay, questions about what I need you to do? Okay, so trade papers, give them to your teacher, read the writing you just received. Praise and prompt. Inside line. Start talking.
So I really see that
I'm a little confused because
at the beginning,
but I'm not sure why I thought no commercial before he only given me reasons why I was interested. So fleshing that out might help me understand why I might perceive commercials.
or that helps they go along with your statements. So they're related to I would like to see over the topic. And then here, you think it might be too busy, so I get that you're going to present something to me that's changed.
You haven't switched yet? Switch to the other person talking? Thanks. No, you stay. We move. Okay, so give your paper to exchange papers now. Read the new writing. Think about what's one good thing, one praise, one prompt. Inside people start talking.
I think it moves from top paragraph. This first paragraph, basically what I'm doing, and I should do my the second paragraph, it gets a little confusing for me. So I try to get my shit out of the description. And I can go to the second sentence, and then here, I get a little that's true. So I can get that right. Okay. Do you have a strong argument? I was like,
if you have it yet, outside group start talking.
Okay. And I got
Okay. I mean,
yeah, that makes sense. Yes, because I got it.
That's a noise word that my students are going to I'm giving feedback on stuff like that.
and you may not be finished, but it's time to get your paperback and rotate. This time I want you to scoot down 2 spaces. 2 spaces. Get your own paperback and scoot down 2 spaces. I wasn't. You're not listening.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so trade papers, read, and
Got the same one.
inside row. Start talking. Praise, prompt. Okay.
And I really like this.
What I like here is that you talk about making
I think that overall it's good. I mean,
you're saying you kind of like pretty much not, but then you feel exactly well. How you say all the time, so I think you got to really understand what you meant by all the time.
I think that
The one thing I might do is, I haven't seen this version. It says the road doesn't take care. I'm not sure what this is. So,
Okay, if you haven't yet, outside people, start talking.
I really didn't see it. I really didn't see it. But I thought some people might be just like, the rock is that's part of it. But I
Any left of?
Okay, I do too.
I kind of remember that. I like the part
But what
where
I said, again, you don't be yourself.
be much better. And then like doing this with peers, they see us do it, it really works.
Okay, I know you may not be finished, but I am gonna ask you to stop. Hey, we're not gonna rotate again, you get the point. And you've got, at this point, plenty of feedback about your writing that you can then take and use someplace else. Couple of things I want us to talk about this process. You could do this with your kids. Put them in the rows and have them give feedback to each other. If you just have to say one good thing and one thing you need to work on, everybody can do that. Now, if you rotate multiple times, you're gonna get different kinds of feedback. Surely at some point that's something in there is gonna be useful, right? So that's one way that you can do that, is actually have your kids line up and give each other feedback like this. You could also think about what something else the kids could be doing while you're rotating, what they're writing, they're working on something while you're going through 1 minute. Really, you spent 2 minutes on the timer with each kid. And while, you know, we even us secondary people, we see them in batches of 25, right? We see 125 throughout the day, but we see them in batches of 25. So, which is what I keep trying to say to myself, we would have 25 at a time. You can do this. You can conference with them. 2 minutes, you can get through them, right? So that's one way that you might think about a quick prompt, a quick praise. And when I conference with kids, I say, they have huge essays, right? They're coming to me and they say, would you read this? And I say, no. And I say, you find the part you want me to help you with. Pick a paragraph that I'm gonna help you with. No, I will not read the whole thing. And the little faces look kind of hurt. And then I say, there's a whole lot of you and one of me. You pick the one part you want the most help with. And that part I'll read. But no, I'm not reading them, so don't feel like you have to read the whole thing.
But then it really forces them to really think about their writing, because what they, like, right, what they want is they want feedback on everything. Well, if I can only ask you about one thing, I really have to make some decisions.
Right, they do.
I think it's a great idea.
They have to figure out what's the weakest part, what's the part they're least comfortable fixing on their own, what's the part, you know, and they pick a variety of reasons for what the part they want help with. And sometimes they go, I don't know. And so then I give them some suggestions. Which part do you think is the weakest? Which part is the most confusing to you? Which part do you think somebody else is going to be confused by? To give them some ideas of things to start on. How you might think about your conclusion. Is it a good one? That one can be hard for everybody, so is that the part you want to help on? So I make them pick. It forces them to really analyze their writing instead of me just giving them all this feedback. We're going to
Okay, I just have to say real quick, something like this, I would never be comfortable doing this with people. I kind of like, I don't really know you guys, so that wasn't uncomfortable for me. But I kind of know David.
Yeah.
You know, like most of our kids in class kind of know each other. They're not like super BFF, but so I would maybe be a little, like, I respect David as a professional. I know him, but I don't know him well. It might make me a little bit uncomfortable to share my writing with him.
Right.
But the idea that we did it, maybe if we did like a practice round first with. In class, right? With something that wasn't mine and something that wasn't his, I could be really super honest and it helped me get my mind going. And then if we did it later with our own writing, I think it would be a lot easier than.
That's a really smart thing. Getting them started thinking about we're all helping each other when it's not personal.
Yeah, it's not my fault there's grammatical errors, but we can all agree that this is a hot mess. But when it's my own fault, or we did this, you know, I'm going to be more okay with that, and I think it's going to be easier for me to say the same thing to David. So I think this is just the strategy alone, using fake writing is thumbs up.
Yeah. And this did not take me long. I went home, I grabbed the first 3 about Doritos, the first 3 about Oreos, and the first 3 about milk that I could find, because I knew we needed 9. We were thinking that we'd have all 27 people here today, and so we needed a lot of samples. And I just typed it, I didn't look for which one's like a good one, a bad one, a middle. I just found the first 3. And there's kind of a good one, a bad one, and a middle. Once I started typing, it kind of worked out that way. But that's a really good idea.
Well, I thought that was your idea, but
no, I just needed you all to have the same kind of thing to be working on.
Additionally, you know, thinking about it in terms of a teacher going through, and students are, if you can imagine students just writing or working on a paragraph of some response that they're doing in class, and if you're walking around and just mentally thinking, okay, one phrase and one prompt as I'm watching these students write, you can kind of get through more students, give them more feedback without having to spend the extreme amount of time that it takes to look at a rubric. I mean, not that they wouldn't turn this in and you wouldn't score it or do something else with it, but you can at least kind of push them in the direction you want them to go. And so students don't necessarily have to do it with each other, although they could. You could just, you know, use this kind of check-in technique as a teacher to help students think about their writing in a different way.
I think the directions of use with students takes a lot of pressure off of them because they know to expect a praise. So they know that everyone's going to be finding something good about their work. It's most likely going to be something different. You know, there's probably going to be more than one good thing that people say. And they know to expect a prompt. So it's not a personal judgment against their writing. They're just following directions. And we would probably not do this at the beginning of the year. We probably would set up the parameters. Okay, here's what a prompt sounds like. You probably make some eye contact with the kiddos who, this is what a prompt really sounds. Here's some words you would say. Here's some, you know, let's preface this with some suggestions. So I think you could be proactive and hopefully find a lot of those issues. Because I was already thinking, I would make sure I had some certain kiddos on the same side of the table so they could never be across from each other too.
Right.
So that you knew it was about the writing and not about something else. So I think
And it's interesting because listening to you talk, some people really focused on the content, like here's what's up with the content, and other people were saying things about the mechanics. Both are things some of these papers really need, but you're right, people got different feedback as they went along. The other thing I would have people do is probably take a few notes as they went along, because you're going to want to use this later. Other thinking about this? Yeah.
Just from a different perspective, I teach science, not English.
Right.
My mind doesn't work like this, so this is very difficult for me. I can see how for some students it would be hard to do. I write things down, everything I compartmentalize, and I think, what am I going to say and how am I going to say it before I even do it?
Right.
So when I'm trying to give feedback, I don't even know what to say. So, I mean, be cautious when there's that student who's very organized in a different way. I'm not organized in my life, but I'm organized in how I think. And this just is like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's frustrating.
I'm sorry. Oh, we didn't mean to.
No, not it's a good activity. I'm just saying, there's that student out there that would be totally like, I don't know what's going on.
And I'm thinking of one in my class right now who would completely wig out if I asked him to do this without the preface that Elaine was talking about. If we had talked about beforehand, what are some strengths of argumentative writing? What are some strengths of writing in general? What are some kinds of things we might be looking for? What are some things we might say? What are some weaknesses of writing in general? What are some weaknesses? Let's put one on the board. Let's practice this together of what that might look like. Here's some kinds of things you might say. Would that have helped you?
Yeah, probably.
So that's really, you bring up a great point. And if I give you guys argumentative writing because I'm an English teacher and that's what we're working on. But if you're working on writing a bill, which you guys were last week, maybe you're putting your bills up there and okay, let's figure out what's wrong with your bills. Or you're putting up a lab. You know, you wrote up this lab and you're just not getting what you want. Or, you know, they're all writing in French or whatever it is. That this just happened to be what I had access to last night at 5:30. This is the stuff that I was taking home to grade this weekend. So be thinking about what do you want them to get better at writing your content. And yeah.
If they're on that same line, I would think if they took something like this and just wrote their own feedback on the back, that she was talking about, Elaine was talking about telling them what prompts sound like. So just if you gave them this, and before we even switched with somebody, had us look at our own piece and then make feedback, and then talk about what you said to get them used to this is what this sounds like, or what else could we say. And then even if it's a fake piece, and then when we switch, we can be listening for, we're hearing the same kind of thing, we can make a class discussion out of it, which again, like Matt said, takes care of that concern, because it's not your writing. You then got to practice, you've got